My next guest is a human nutritionist and a food scientist specialising in everything from ice cream to baby formula. So what does she think of red meat? Dr. Anneline Payachee has a deep understanding of where red meat needs to fit in the modern diet. Welcome to Beef TV, Anneline.
Thank you so much for having me, Lindsay.
Oh, it's fantastic to see you back here. I first became enamoured with you when you were on stage at a conference last year and you said something I've never forgotten. I tell people at dinner conversation all the time that Australians have a really low physiological predisposition to food allergies, but we love to self-diagnose.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. So, I mean, there's different types of food allergies. So, for example, with lactose, genetically, it's roughly between 3 to 7% of those who are of Caucasian backgrounds, so Australia, European countries, the USA, that genetically are lactose intolerant. In your African to your South American countries, it varies between 30 to 60% genetically, and then in Asian countries it can be as high as 90% of the population just based on genes. And yet, ironically, Australia has the highest apparent levels of lactose intolerance, self-diagnosed lactose intolerance.
I sometimes think it's a personality trait, like, hi, I'm Lindsay and I suffer from, I can't eat capsicum. Okay.
Yeah. So you could have an intolerance, but it doesn't mean you have an allergy. You may have had the flu or something, and then you try and drink a cup of milk and you feel a bit bloaty, but that's just your body trying to readjust. And so unfortunately, we do have a lot of access to information and we tend to self-diagnose. So I'm not saying that it's not a real issue, but you definitely need to get proper medical advice to make that diagnosis.
Let's talk red meat.
Okay.
I am curious, what are some of the misconceptions that you see come out all the time around red meat where you think, as a food nutritionist, people should know this is wrong?
All right. The first one that I see, and to me it's quite an interesting concept, is that cows eat grass, they get nutrition from grass, we should eat grass. Why should we eat beef or lamb or whatever it is, but we should just go eat grass and plants? And the thing that most people don't take into consideration is the digestive tract. We've got a stomach that's roughly under pH 1.8. We've got 6 meters of small intestine, and then we've got a colon. Our small intestine is where all the nutrient absorption takes place, whereas cows are ruminants. And so their specific way of digesting is able to abstract nutrients from dietary fiber and convert that into minerals, into proteins, into iron, into B12. We can't actually do that. So you could eat all the grass in the world that you want, you're just going to get a whole lot of fiber and water out of it. That's pretty much it.
And little else.
You'll have regular stools, but great for constipation issues, but yeah, that's probably about it. We just can't absorb nutrients from fiber. That's just not how we're built. So that's an issue. And I find it fascinating that our digestive tract, it's just not taken into consideration that we're physiologically different. So when I look at cows, I just think that they're little nutrient factories on legs. Like, they can take something that is nutriently deplete, like grass, and convert it into something nutrient dense. The second one I often get is that protein in meats and the protein in your plant-based alternatives are exactly the same, or in beans and legumes. And it's not. Now, you can be a vegan, you can be a vegetarian, and if you do it smart, you can actually create complete protein foods. But if you just eat a bowl of baked beans on its own, or a cup of rice on its own, they are nutritionally totally different to meat, because meat has got the complete amino acid profile that we need to absorb, whereas the others don't have that. So protein versus protein, just because it says it's 20 grams of protein, and that's 20 grams of protein in the beef, they're not exactly the same. We may not be able to absorb all of the amino acids in there, and even if we can, in plants, it's incomplete. So you've got to actually eat complementary proteins together. Yeah.
Is it the case that if we forego meat, to get the same nutrients from beans, we've really got to take bucket loads of them into our diet daily?
Yeah, you've got to eat a lot more diversity. So baked beans on itself is actually depleted in certain amino acids, but baked beans on toast actually puts them together, because bread's depleting other amino acids. So you put it together, you make a complete protein. So you've got to be wise, you've got to be strategic, you've got to know about food combinations, but then yes, you've also got to eat a lot more as well.
Sounds like it's easier to just have a steak. Lucky for us at beef, we're having lots of them.
Yeah, it is, if you can eat meat and you're able to eat meat and you're able to access meat, it is nutrient dense. You don't need a lot for it to go very far.
Where does meat fit into your diet?
In my diet, yes. So I have red meat 3 times a week. It's usually twice a week it's beef, and then I also have kangaroo. I love kangaroo. Otherwise it's beef, lamb and kangaroo. But I make sure I have my palm-sized portion of red meat 3 times a week. For a while during my PhD, I became really unwell and I couldn't actually eat meat. So I couldn't eat meat, I couldn't eat chicken, it was just vomiting a lot. And I became anemic, so I had to take supplements and get it. I had to do it, but one set of supplements made me constipated, the other one made me have diarrhea, and so I was like, I can't keep doing this. So I weaned myself back onto meat over time, and it's great. I don't take supplements.
Well, I expect to see you down on Meat Street. Anneline Payachee, thanks for joining us here on Beef TV.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, don't go anywhere. Queensland's Premier will be in the next hour talking everything